Good morning. This is the time and place for the Planning Hearing Officer hearings for Wednesday, January 9th, 2013. My name is Kristen Asp, and I will be conducting the hearing as Planning Hearing Officer. We have one case on the agenda today. It is for a variance application, and all relevant exhibits are posted on the panels located directly behind me. As I stated, we have one application for a variance. If the evidence presented in the application and at the hearing meets the criteria, then the planning hearing officer can either approve or impose conditions for approval on the case in question. If the findings of fact are not evident, then the request will be denied. Public notice. Notification of this hearing was accomplished by the use of public notices, which were mailed to property owners located within property owners and occupants, mailed to property owners located within 500 feet of the subject property, physically posted on the site in question, placed in the local newspaper, and posted on the city's website. The hearing will proceed as follows. I will read a description of the application or request. The case planner will make a brief overview of the case, giving analysis and making a recommendation. The applicant will be asked to come forward stating both name and address, and will be asked to present the case within a 15-minute time limit. Others in support of or in opposition to the application and interested parties will be asked to come forward, again stating clearly both name and address, and have a 3-minute time limit. Lastly, the applicant will be given an opportunity to make any closing comments, and if desired, in response to any testimony by other speakers, with, again, a 5-minute time limit. The hearing will then be closed and taken under submission. As far as a decision, after the hearing, the decision will be prepared in writing and will be in the form of a letter sent to the applicant and to all persons who responded to the public notice, either by speaking at this hearing or by submitting written responses and provided their name and mailing address. The date of the decision will be the date appearing on the letter, not necessarily the date of today's hearing. In the form of if an appeal is desired, under the appeal provisions of Title 30 of the Glendale Municipal Code, the decision may be appealed to the Planning Commission within 15 days, again, of the date of the decision date, and the notice of appeal shall be filed with the Building and Safety Division that's located here in MSB 101 in this building located directly across the hall. Speaker card. If you wish to speak, please write your name and address on one of the speaker forms which have been provided at the front door. Please submit it to planning staff. I'd like to also inform everyone that the official proceedings of the planning hearing officer's hearings are recorded on tape as part of the public record. Okay, so to the agenda item at hand. This is located at 110 East Maple Street, variance case number PVAR 1234411. The applicant is Susan Wong. Description, an application for a variance to allow the installation of a new projecting sign which exceeds the maximum size and thickness requirements and which projects into the public right-of-way, than otherwise permitted at 110 East Maple Street. This is part of a Mercedes-Benz automobile dealership and is in the process of completing construction of their new auto dealership. I will now turn it over to Mr. Kiesel, the case planner, to summarize and let us know what's going on.
All right. Good morning, Ms. Asp. The Mercedes-Benz automobile dealership is completing construction of their new automobile dealership located at 622 and 708 South Brand Boulevard. The current variance request is to allow the installation of a new projecting sign which exceeds maximum size and thickness requirements and which projects further into the right-of-way than otherwise permitted. The sign is located on the parking garage of the building located at 110 East Maple Street. And more specifically, the variance requests to allow a proposed 25 square foot projecting sign where the code allows a maximum of 6 square feet. Also to allow the proposed projecting sign to be 11 inches thick instead of the maximum 6 inches thick required under the code or allowed under the code. And then finally, the code allows projecting signs to encroach 3 feet into the right-of-way. The proposed sign encroaches approximately 4.5 feet into the right-of-way. Previous approvals for the Mercedes-Benz automobile dealership include a conditional use permit, parking reduction permit, and variances, including those for some of the signs that are already located on the dealership, on the buildings within the dealership complex. Now I'll just go briefly into the findings. Strictly applying the sign regulations will result in unnecessary hardship inconsistent with the intent of the ordinance. The intent of the sign regulations is to protect and enhance the physical appearance of the community, create a more attractive business climate, and reduce obstructions that may contribute to safety hazards. The proposed projecting sign, as I've said, is 25 square feet. The parking garage facade along East Maple Street is 230 feet in length, rather long building. The building will contain only one occupant, and no other projecting sign will be allowed on the facade of this building, even though the street frontage of the building is significantly wider than a standard commercial tenant space or frontage. Given the size of the projecting sign, the approximately 4.5-foot projection into the public right-of-way, as well as the proposed 11-inch thickness, is appropriate to maintain the proper sign proportions. The length of the parking garage facade is the exceptional circumstance which warrants granting the variance related to the projecting sign. Sign regulations permit only one projecting sign per ground floor occupancy, and this is regardless of how wide that occupancy is. Because of the extended length of the parking garage, it is reasonable to allow a projecting sign, the projecting sign proposed to exceed the permitted sign size by 19 square feet. The granting of the variance will not be detrimental to the public welfare or injurious to the property or improvements in the neighborhood. There weren't any comments from the various other departments, divisions, or sections of the city, including traffic and transportation, as well as engineering. The projecting sign is approximately 11 feet above the adjacent sidewalk, which is well above the minimum 8-foot clearance. They will also need to obtain a sign permit, and doing so will ensure proper installation of the proposed sign to eliminate any potential safety hazards. The granting of the variance will not be contrary to the objectives of the ordinance. Sign regulations, as I've mentioned before, are intended to protect the appearance of the community and reduce obstructions. The proposed sign is the only projecting sign on this building, which has 230 feet of frontage on East Maple Street, which is much more frontage than most commercial tenants have. The new Mercedes-Benz parking structure is a contemporary-style building. The proposed projecting sign on the building integrates well within the building facade, thereby enhancing the look of the building and, by extension, the South Brand Boulevard neighborhood. And this is consistent with the sign regulations to protect the appearance of the community. Staff believes that all the findings for the variance can be made and recommends approval of the variance request. That concludes what I have to say. If you have any questions, let me know.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kiesel. I will ask the applicant to come up. I believe that's the speaker card I have. Lisa Black?
Actually, before the applicant, I'm sorry, there weren't any comments from any other departments, including, I don't know if I mentioned that or not.
You did.
Okay,
You did.
sorry.
That no other comments were
Okay.
received from other city divisions. Thank you. Hi.
My name is Lisa Black, and I represent All-Star Motors. Sorry, is that better? And first of all, thank you for considering our request. We are making this request because we feel that this sign is more functionally appropriate than a wall sign would otherwise offer. It provides direction in advance for motorists if they're coming to visit, so they know where they're going to be turning, rather than confusion with a wall sign that you don't see until you pass the building. We have installed these signs, as Roger mentioned, on 2 of our other buildings that have been constructed over the last couple of years, and it's exactly the same as those signs, and we feel that that it would be beneficial for this particular street and vehicular traffic. It would just provide advanced notice to motorists on where they would turn.
Okay, I guess I have a few questions.
Okay.
This is on the Maple Street facade. It is on the southerly buildings, and maybe just if I can have you come up and look at these pictures. And maybe these pictures were taken before in construction. Am I looking at the right?
No, not this building. Actually, the building on this side.
Okay, so we have and maybe it might be better to speak to the site plan, but those weren't it.
Okay. Actually, this building is just
Okay,
this building as well, so it would be
located on that corner in terms of the pictures. Okay, and just going from the elevation, these other 2 signs have already been permitted. Maybe that's a question of staff.
Yeah, those signs are already permitted. I believe they're also up.
This is installed, and this is in the process of being installed.
Okay, so these were permitted by code.
Correct.
So we're talking about this sign right
Correct.
here. And it's just announcing the showroom. Is that?
It's announcing that, and I believe there's an arrow on it so that it directs people into this drive aisle here to either park here or in the parking structure.
Okay, and so, thank you.
Sure.
Just for maybe clarification of the overall, the buildings that make up Mercedes, my understanding, there's a service component and then a showroom component, so this is I guess where I'm
Correct.
going with part of the functionality that you described is to make a distinction between, hey, this is where you're going to go for service, this is where you're going to want to go look at the showroom if you're interested in
Yes, and just
browsing
for
and looking for a car.
people that aren't familiar with the Mercedes location in Glendale, and if they're using Maple Street or even coming off of Brand onto
Okay.
Maple as their path of travel, if you will, it at least announces where they should turn rather than driving down the street, ending up in the middle of a residential neighborhood, then having to figure out how to turn around to come back to then turn into the area where they would park.
Okay, so it's
It serves 2 purposes.
right by the alley, which is where you would enter
Correct.
to go to the showroom as well
Correct.
if you were in a vehicle.
That's correct.
Okay, I just lost my train of thought in terms of questioning. The other building to the north, which is the service building?
Yes.
That has been operating and those signs have been up?
Yes.
There just in the time that it's been operating, do you feel that it's been helpful? People have, gotten to the service just fine because of
Yeah.
the distinction
Yes,
of
we
this is
do.
a service center?
And even on the 700 South Brand, because that's the 622 South Brand building, and
Okay.
then at 700 on the south side of Maple, we have a projecting sign there as well. And so when you are traveling either north or southbound on Brand, you see those signs well in advance. So you know to either slow down to turn in there, or no, that's the showroom building, so let's continue, and you see the next sign where it says service. So I think it is very helpful.
Okay.
And I think customers have found it helpful, because initially when we didn't have the signs up, it was very confusing. People were going back to the old building, which is now the vehicle storage building, but they were going back to that building, or they were kind of they would come into the showroom, where do I find service? So, yeah, it's been very, very
Okay.
helpful.
And as you mentioned, I mean, this is adjacent to the start of sort of a residential neighborhood, so.
Correct.
I guess just a line of questioning along
So
those lines.
we've tried to keep that, that sign away, as far away from the residential area as we can, and it clearly is as far as it can go
Okay.
on the building.
Okay. Mr. Kiesel outlined some draft findings related to the sign. Do you have anything to add or any additional?
No, I think he was very thorough in his,
And have you read the draft conditions?
I did,
And
yes.
any issues with any of those?
no concerns.
I did have that one last question. There just appears to be like two sets of plans that describe the elevation of the sign, and just the numbers are a little different between this sign and the one shown in the color. This is showing almost a 5 foot, and I believe this is showing 5.5. So, know which one? Looks like they might have been prepared. Well, no, prepared by the same firm.
That's the same.
This one's just slightly
This was
shorter.
2012. So this one's probably, this is a more current drawing,
Okay.
just looking.
Okay.
So,
So it's this that we're
Yes.
talking about?
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to make a clarification that we're looking at the 5.5 foot height as opposed
Yes.
to the 5 foot height. Okay. I don't know that I have any other questions. I don't have any other speaker cards. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No,
or
thank you very
from
much.
staff? Okay. That being said, with no other speakers in the audience, I will officially close this hearing, take this under submission. Thank you all for coming.